I try not to get involved in stuff like this. I would normally make a video on something like this. I don't twink. I don't really do any of this stuff. It doesn't really pertain to me, but I have to find irony in the way it's transpired. And I really have to, because I made a video on what I'm about to talk about 4 or 5 years ago on Ace Games TV. I was actually just watching it last night before I found out about this. And I was really, really surprised at how accurate I was in that video. In that video, I talked about how the game was getting to be out of control, and that there was the biggest problem with World of Warcraft. This was the title of that video. The biggest problem with World of Warcraft is that there is too much going on in the World of Warcraft. And at the time, I cited mostly content pathways. But now I think I would reassess that and say there's just too much going on in the game outside of anything that's actually focused, right? Too many different things that you could manipulate, too many different items, too many different, experience boosts, and too many different ways to level, too many different everything. Anything that you could think of, there's just too many of them, okay? And I would have never sat down and said, WoW 2. I've never even considered that. About 10 years ago, I thought it was an impossibility. About 5 years ago, I would say no way. About 1 year ago, I would have feverishly argued with anybody who even brought it up. But after I started to think about some of this, and we've seen this again, it does feel like there's just too much stuff going on in this game, man. And hopefully you guys have seen it by now. Yesterday, this post broke here, okay? And we're going to read a couple of comments and talk a little bit about this, but just randomly, I guess people find data mining, whatever, on the actual PTR. I mean, there's like 6 people on the PTR, so not surprising this stuff doesn't get posted. Blizzard doesn't actually tell anybody about anything until Wowhead tells people, which my number one gripe with the company right now. But anyway, really interesting. We have found, I guess not me, but the community has found that there is now going to be some type of a penalty for grouping with people who have their experience off. And at first, this was pretty, some of these comments are going to be pretty unique. Got a new mouse, by the way. You probably hear it. Anyway, I was really shocked by some of these comments. I guess I shouldn't be. But then they clarified it. So before we even say anything, they've now clarified what's happening. So let's summarize exactly what's happening here, because obviously a lot of people probably maybe are seeing this for the first time, okay? So long story short, a buff is now going to affect all party members within 200 yards of you when you are grouped with somebody who is intentionally turned their experience off, okay? And somebody found the wording to be important here. Experience gains from quests and kills vastly reduced. Someone in your party has chosen to no longer gain experience. Someone in your party. So apparently, people speculated that meant that if you intentionally group with somebody, that's a party. If you're put in a random group together, that's called an instance, which is actually supported by the way chat works. And even in Classic, it's working with the same structures, same substructures at least. So, but then today they clarified that is not how, that is how it's going to work effectively. It was said that the person that Kyvax is replying to was basically like, I don't want to be able to group up with some random idiot who I don't even know has the experience thing on and then realize I'm not getting any experience halfway through. Kyvex says this won't happen. The change only affects groups that manually invite player characters who have experience off. There is no impact on players who find themselves automatically grouped by the matchmaker while doing PvP or Dungeon Finder dungeons. This change also doesn't affect anyone who has turned off experience for their own benefit, such as plundering old raids while keeping their level low enough to use their Agromar stride. So I don't know what that really even means. Plundering old raids while keeping their low. I mean, obviously it's not going to, I don't think anybody ever thought it was going to impact the individual doing it, but so let's not talk about why this is a thing. In case you're unaware, you haven't read this article, the summary is that people do a lot of, they make a level 110 or maybe even a 111, and then they halt all experience. They continue using powerful items from Legion, like experience, or like legendaries. They use any very powerful gear, and I guess there's probably some gear from from BFA as well that you can get. And it's funny because just I think 2 weeks ago now, I posted a thing that somebody showed me on MMO Champion of a guy who has a level 50 neck at 110. It's possible. It is possible to get AP even when you're not 120. So there's people out there who do this for real. And at first, people thought it was going to be like, oh, yeah, you're just not going to be able to do it at all now. Anybody in the group, even in instance, like the random dungeon finder stuff is now going to be screwed because of that. But that's not what it is. What they're doing here is they're trying to counter the people who are borderline exploiting this whole freehold nonsense. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It doesn't really happen on my realm, but I guess on bigger realms, it's just wall-to-wall spam. And there's going to be people on this post who are like, that's not spam, that's called trading. But I mean, I don't know. I think it is spam. I mean, it's really not a supported gameplay device. And this is what I mean when I say there's just too much going on in the game. That was the first thing I said when I read this. When I heard about this, I said, man, they are just screwed. They really are in a position that they cannot win because there is just, I mean, think about this. Think about what had to have happened to lead up to this. First of all, there had to be a dungeon easy enough that you could do this kind of nonsense with, right? And this is especially with Freehold. They're talking about islands. Islands obviously are easy no matter what, but the real benefit is I've been told Freehold boosts take about 5 minutes per clear, maybe a little bit longer, 5 minutes per clear, and give you almost 70% of a level. Maybe on, that could be even bigger, more experience and less time. I don't know. I've never participated in it. I have no interest in it. Why? I don't care, right? So the fact that there's, the fact that I'm even making a video on this is out of character, but it's just, as soon as I read this, I was like, man, this is just a perfect microcosm of what's wrong with this game nowadays. And it's nothing intentional. It's just a product of 15 years of game development and a lot of dead-end options. You know what I mean? Things that just didn't work out, that didn't move forward. And I think a great example of that is the legendaries from Legion. The fact that you can still use those, and they are so powerful. Some of them are dramatically powerful. Double the power of your character in many ways. And people are choosing to stay at that level. And then, by the time you're 120, you've lost the legendaries, the normal, the scaling that would have happened per expansion reset. These things would happen, and your character's just so much weaker. And there's this whole group of people who feel disenfranchised with leveling, but they don't understand that's the product of the ridiculousness that was Legion. The fact that we went from, I have a video on this channel, 200k DPS, the start of the expansion, 2 million DPS at the end of the expansion. It's just absolutely insane. And I am really worried about the future of this game now, because the more I think about it, the more I think this game has just gone on for so long that there is just so many vestigial structures in it, so many things that just don't function anymore. Like the fact that the legendaries even work, you know what I mean? And all of this gear even works, and that there's a dungeon that's easy enough and islands that are easy enough to do this in, and that, that there's some kind of benefit to being 110. For what it's worth, man, this wouldn't have happened in the old days. There would be no way that you could have ever done this. Like you couldn't stay at level 60 and get a bunch of absurd gear and do something crazy in Classic. And it's possible, but realistically, it'd just be better to do it at 70. There wouldn't be any benefit to staying at 60. And I think that's a testament to just the game is just simpler. It was just simpler. There was way less in it. It's a good and a bad thing. And I think this is the perfect microcosm of it here. Really, I really do. I think exactly what you're seeing here is that they're just really just backed into a corner with so many of these things that have kind of culminated in issues. And I don't know, man. I really hope that they find a way out of it. This is a really ham-fisted way to approach this topic, and a lot of people are rightfully upset. But yeah, let's go ahead and read a couple of these, man, because a lot of these are just not relevant anymore now that we know. This guy says, is an island leveling way slower? Yes, we've confirmed that as well. This guy says, why? This doesn't hurt the game. Why stop this from happening? Again, yet another example of devs thinking something in the game is a problem when players don't. So, this is actually a really funny little comment here, because I don't know how you could look at what's going on in Freehold on a level 110 character that's intentionally halted their progression through the expansion to become considerably stronger and think that this isn't a problem. You know what I mean? If the players don't see this as a problem, they're lying or blind, one way or the other. But it's a problem that should not have been fixed this way, right? Like, you should not have let it happen. And I don't know what they're going to do, because this is going to, these types of problems are going to continue to happen. And I don't know how best to describe, but look at it as a situation where an unintentional game design that they couldn't figure out how to solve has caused a major gameplay issue. That's the best way I could think of it. It's just something that they didn't have happen on purpose. No creative way to solve. Just gets out of control. The whole game spirals in this direction all the time now, and it's a really concerning. I mean, this happened with the experience potions. This happened with so many other systems recently, so it's really crazy. Anyway, this guy, a lot of people are thinking that this is somehow, let's just skip ahead because a lot of these comments are going to be about something that we already know doesn't actually happen. So yeah, even this point. But anyway, I mean, there's so many comments here. It's ridiculous. Fun detected, fun nerfed. Level our way or our way only questing, which is ironic, right? Because I mean, you can still do this with a 120. You know what I mean? It's funny because people can do this with the 120. They were just doing it with a 110 because a 110 was arguably stronger because of how scaling works in dungeons and group content like this. So. I mean, questing is not in any, like, I don't know. There's so many different ways to level now, and I think this is a testament to it. So I'm not really sure what that guy's point is. But anyway, Blizzard really hates the idea of people reaching the end game, because playing through the exact same story content for the 5th time was so exhilarating. I went and started playing a different game instead. So these are the kind of comments that it's just like, I mean, you're making yourself look like a fool, right? They obviously don't want people boosting for 2. It's literally, people are saying it's like 2 hours, 110 to 120. I mean, come on, are you being serious right now? Do you think that's healthy for the game? I don't really care if you like it or not, right? That's not what this is about. It's about whether or not it's working as the game desires it to, and it clearly wasn't. I don't know the facts about this matter. I've never done it. So I'm basing a lot of that off what I've read, but I can't really understand how people could feel this way. But anyway, I mean, this is the pinnacle of the problem for me, right? Playing through the exact same story content for the 5th time was so exhilarating. Then don't do it. I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you don't like playing the content that the game has, then stop. And that's what that guy chose to do, apparently. Good. Feel free to move on. If your only concern is leveling characters and you've leveled characters so many times that you're not having fun anymore, the problem isn't just with leveling. Do you guys understand? Do people understand that? That these concerns, this is not something that Blizzard should support. Just because you think leveling is boring after the 5th time, a Blizzard shouldn't automatically like, this guy's level 5 times, better allow him to level in Freehold by a 110, boosting the, it's just ridiculous. It's really just ridiculous. So I can go on about this forever, but I just wanted to leave a short little video here, a video talking about I really am worried about how much the game is just like must be a tangled mess. It's just a maze. They have to navigate a labyrinth just to make one change. And this kind of ham-fisted decision here to put some kind of buff in the game to basically prevent level 110 characters from boosting level, up for 111 plus characters in a dungeon that's supposed to be, somewhat challenging because of systems from Legion. I mean, it's just a mess. It's so convoluted. And that, I think, is the biggest problem facing World of Warcraft today. So let me know what you guys think. But otherwise, we'll see you guys for the regularly scheduled stream tomorrow and going forward. Thanks for stopping by.